All right, welcome to the first installment of the Kentucky Elk Hunting webinar series for 2022. So we did this series, Joe and I did last season. It seemed to be of interest to our hunters, so we're kicking it off again for this year. So strangely enough, we're not in our office, we're in a hotel room in Minnesota. We're at the Eastern Elk Workshop this week, trying to learn some things about elk management. So we're on hotel Wi-Fi, so hopefully that holds up as we get through this. And Joe and I are on the same screen, which is a rare thing because we'll usually be at our own computers for the rest of this series. But either way, so our goal with this first one, so we're recording this one on May 18th. We're a little bit behind due to our travel to the conference, but elk results are up. They were up as of Tuesday. I hope lots of you have gone on my profile and looked to see if you were drawn or heard your name at the Mountain Arts Center last Saturday. The main thing that we want to cover today is what to do if you've been drawn. So really your first steps, go on my profile, you've been drawn. There's a lot of information that's going to hit you right there. We're going to go through all that. We're going to let you know how it can be useful. And that'll really just kind of lay the foundation for getting everybody started through the process. Just to talk a little bit about what the goal of this webinar series is. I mean, Joe and I's goal is to make Kentucky hunters, elk hunters, as successful as possible. You know, a lot of the first couple episodes are going to be how to navigate my profile. Our second episode that's actually already been recorded and will likely be up when this one is up. We met with the president of the Kentucky Elk Guides Association. He gave some great info about what to do if you're thinking about getting a guide. The third episode is going to be how to navigate the regulated area draw, which is sort of a second step in the process if you're interested in hunting one of the regulated areas. We'll talk more about that today. So a lot of the first couple of these episodes are going to be kind of how to navigate the draw process and what to do at the beginning. And we will slowly get into basically how to hunt elk, how to call elk. We've got a great episode lined up for our archery hunters. We've got a great episode lined up about how to get your gun ready for a rifle hunt with one of our other biologists who's a rifle expert, you know, a competitive shooter and a big elk hunter. So we will basically, as these episodes air, we're going to usually email them out to the hunters. They'll also be on YouTube and they'll be directly linked on your My Profile page. So when we go and explore My Profile today, they won't necessarily be showing, but we'll have it up, you know, later today. So there's multiple ways to get these videos. Checking My Profile is probably the most reliable. You can also subscribe on the YouTube page and be notified when they pop up. And then again, we'll email you, and that way you'll directly have our email addresses and can ask questions right back to us. So again, we did this last year and we got a lot of positive feedback on it. I mean, this is kind of one of those things where, you know, this is rough. We're recording this on Zoom, we're shipping it out, but it's a quick and efficient way for Joe and I and some other guests that we're going to have on here to get, you know, the group of drawn elk hunters some good info, and it really worked last year. As always, if you got a question, our contact info will be the last we'll keep that slide up towards the end of the video. You'll have our office phone and our email. Call or email us. If it's a question that we're getting a lot from hunters, we'll put it on a webinar and address it. If not, we'll get directly back with you. So here in the first week or so of drawn elk hunters, our phones today are ringing off the hook. So be patient a little bit here early on. We've got 4 elk biologists in the program. We'll get back to you. It might not be immediate, but we'll get back to you. Kind of one thing that I want to hit, and I'll introduce myself now that we've kind of got the housekeeping stuff done, but we've got some really good resources here in the department. All 4 of our elk biologists, myself, Joe, Dan, and Mark, have all killed elk out west, have all been somewhat lifelong elk hunters. And so we've got a good, you know, I think we've got a good outlook on things and can offer up some information Plus, we're also heavily involved in the hunt organization and that kind of stuff. So we can kind of bring both sides and really help our hunters out. But I'll jump right in and introduce myself. I'm John Hass. I'm the Bear and Elk Program Coordinator for Kentucky Fish and Wildlife. I've been working with elk since about 2006, off and on. Did a grad school project on bull elk here in Kentucky. Came back to work for the department as an elk biologist for a year, and then moved over to our bear program coordinator. We've recently combined our bear and elk programs. You know, those two species in Kentucky geographically overlap. We've got people in the field that typically handle, you know, interchangeably bear and elk issues or bear and elk research. We've kind of lumped that together. I think it'll be a good way moving forward. I've also got Joe McDermott with me. I'll let you introduce yourself, Joe.
Joe McDermott. I'm a bear and elk program biologist. I've been working with Kentucky elk since January of 2012. Yeah, I'm excited for the new webinar series.
Yeah, so I think I had to do the same thing on the first episode last year, but Joe doesn't give himself nearly enough credit. So all the info that he's going to show you on my profile, if you're lucky enough to draw a regulated area, every one of those regulated areas he's lined up. So he mainly focuses on our elk hunting agreements. So that's WMAs in the elk zone, hunter access areas, the land in our voucher cooperator program. Knows all those people, gets all those agreements signed, and has got about what, 350,000 acres?
Yeah, that's
that we've lined up for people to hunt on in the elk zone. Additionally, all the info that he's going to run you through here in the next couple of minutes is he's produced it. His number one goal a couple of years ago was to put as much useful information as possible, either on our website or through the My Profile system, to set the elk hunters up for success. So, you know, he does. Yeah, he's not going to give himself enough credit for that, but there's a lot of incredibly useful resources on here. And like I said, the goal for today is just to set the foundation and let you know where the important stuff is at. So like I said, this is the start. This is not going to be the most fantastically interesting video, but it's an important one for everybody to watch. I highly suggest run through it. And like I said, if you've got any questions, be sure to contact us. So what we're going to do right now is essentially Joe's going to walk you through the My Profiles process, what you can see in there. So we're going to unshare this title slide and let him jump into the My Profile system, and we'll take it from there.
Gotta cut me some slack, man. We haven't done this in like 10 months.
That's true.
It takes a while to get back into
a little rusty. All right. Yep. You pull up what you need, and we'll be good to go.
You currently sharing?
No.
All right, bear with us. All right.
You sharing?
I am sharing. Okay. So what you're seeing here is hopefully something that's familiar to you already now that the draw results have been announced, where you can go into your My Profile, you sign into your account, hit the elk information button, and then this is what it takes you to. If you're drawn, it will show you this screen right here. Quick disclaimer right now, this is a testing account for us to, it's on a developmental server, so we can go through and make changes and do stuff on the front end. I do not have a commissioner's elk permit. John doesn't either. It's just a permit that our test account was given, so we can kind of see what everything looks like. But the first thing you notice, obviously, if you're drawn, you have this nice big green bar up here at the top of the screen. It tells you that you're drawn, and it tells you what you were drawn for. So in this case, our test account has a commissioner's elk permit, but you guys are more than likely, most of you are going to have bull firearm, either sex archery, you know, whatever it may be that you were drawn for. In this green box, you do have two things that are pretty important. I think first right here is your elk permit letter. So this is actually your permit that you can carry with you if you want to. It tells you all the kinds of different things that you need to know. It has your season dates, what you are allowed to harvest and when, what type of equipment you're allowed to take to the field, in general, just some other things you need to think about, like, you know, what any special requirements for your permit type or postseason survey, stuff like that. The next thing here is this next steps document. It kind of gives you it's a written overview of this secondary drawing, the area drawing that we'll discuss a little bit. But we try to, like I said, we try to give you information as many ways as possible. Obviously, we're going to talk about it today, but here's also a written version for you guys to go back and reference whenever you want. Some people retain information a little bit better this way. So those are, obviously two things that you're going to need to review and keep with you. The next thing you'll see here is a required items section. Again, our texture account does say it's a commissioned elk permit holder, so we're not required to buy an elk hunting permit. Everybody else, all the general quota hunters, will have to buy that elk hunting permit, and there will be a link right here to help you do it right here on this online license sales. In addition to your elk hunting permit, you're going to have an annual hunting license. So those are things that you have to purchase before you can come hunting. And on your screen, you probably can't see right here where it says hang tag yet. That's actually hidden until your elk permit has been purchased. So you won't have the ability to print your hang tag. And we get a lot of questions about, where is this thing? Where can I find it? It doesn't exist until that permit is purchased. This is something that you're required to take with you into the field, display in your vehicle. We're in a hotel right now, and the internet's not working the best, so I may not be able to show this one to you just yet. We'll give it a minute, come back. But that's something you're going to have to take with you. So those are, that's stuff that you have to go elk hunting, those three things. Then we kind of move into, we'll go up here to the maps, the elk hunting units overview. Many of you may not be familiar with our elk management zone. It's the 16 most southeast counties in eastern Kentucky. This right here will show you a general overview of our elk hunting units that are available to you. We have units 1 to 7, but the first one, unit 1, is closed currently for no hunting. It's low population density, but it gives you an overview of kind of what's there, where the boundaries are, just so you can kind of see it. And then here below it are unit specific maps. You can click on each one of these and it's going to show you an overview in more detail of each individual elk hunting unit, so you can see what properties are available. There's physical written descriptions of the boundaries in the bottom, so you guys are always going to know where you're at. So that's just some good general overview stuff for you guys to look at. We'll talk now about the optional items. Like we said, we have an area drawing. So our elk hunting units broke up into these units. Our elk management zone is broken up into these elk hunting units, and we have we're trying to give you guys, in the best way we can, and the opportunity to apply to hunt in the units that you want. We don't have the ability to draw you in for a unit right out of the bat like you might apply for in Colorado or Montana, something like that. We don't have the abilities to do that. So when you're first drawn, you just have the permit. That's it. We have this secondary draw, this area drawing, to give you guys a chance to make your decisions and see where you actually want to go. Right. So if I look at these maps and look at some of the other stuff on this my profile, I say, man, I really want to hunt unit 2. This is kind of the process about how you go around doing that. So within these elk hunting units, we have what we call regulated areas. These are privately owned properties, for the most part, that were enrolled for some type of elk hunting access. Occasionally there may be other management objectives for a property, but what they are is essentially restricted elk hunting access on these areas, and it's going to be limited. So each property has an allocated number of permits per allocated number of spots per permit type. So there's a limited number of hunters that can be on there at any one time. And the way I try to tell people to think about a regulated area is just an extra place to go, right? So if you have this property, you can hunt that property with whoever else is allowed to at the time. So you're going to have a set number of people in the area. It's just a nice thing to have, know your competition level around you and things like that. The way the drawing works, you'll make your selections that we'll talk about, but at the end of it, you're going to be selected for an elk hunting unit. And once you have a unit designated to you, you are not allowed to switch. That is the unit you're stuck in. Stuck is probably not the best word, but that's the unit you'll be hunting in. The regulated areas, like I said, they fall within these elk hunting units. And if you're drawn for a regulated area, you're by default going to be placed into the elk hunting unit that property is located in, right? So going back to unit 2, if I draw Middlesboro regulated area, by default, I'm going to be placed in unit 2 where Middlesboro is located. And that would mean you have the ability to hunt that Middlesboro property and then anything else in unit 2 that's public or private. I will get better at this spiel as we go. So we just haven't had to give it a couple of months.
Yeah, and I think on that, I'll jump in here for just a second. I think on that, Joe, we're going to have next week's webinar is going to be like an hour-long deep dive into the area drawing. So this section of my profile, we're going to cover in depth in the next video.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm trying to just give a brief overview of it right now, just so you can kind of understand what it is when you're trying to read about it. So the main goal of this one is just to get you familiar with my profile and the stuff that's available to you, because there is so much information on here. But it does say optional right here on the screen, because it's not something you're required to do. If you decide I don't really care where I want to elk hunt, you don't have to do anything else. We will give you an elk unit to be hunting it. But there's a lot of good information down here for you all to look into. We have these hunt unit overview maps, which just shows you all the, it's a blown up version of what I already kind of highlighted. This regulated areas map here, I'm not going to click on as many of these because I'm afraid the hotel internet might crash. But this is going to take you to an interactive map where you can, it's very similar to Google Earth, where you can move around, look at the properties, kind of see some different things about them, see the terrain, openings, things like that. I thought ahead and I did pull these up. The regulated areas list. If you click on the regulated areas list, it'll take you and show you just general information about all of our properties that are out here. Again, we're going to cover all this in more detail going forward, but this will at least show you what's available if you're curious in terms of these regulated areas. And we have some in every single one of our elk hunting units, trying to offer as much opportunity as we can. The selection data, if you're curious, seeing how people have applied in the past, that's what this is for. It shows you how last year's hunters actually went through and made their selections, so you can kind of get an idea of what's desirable or more desirable. And over here on our additional information section, there's a lot of good stuff here and some stuff that we just put up that's brand new. The general maps are just going to take you to other hunt unit overview maps. We've got several documents in here. This one, this Google Earth layers for elk. What we went through and done is basically a step-by-step document on how to find different KMLs so that you can pull them into Google Earth, which is something that most people are familiar with. You can also pull them into certain hunting applications like Onyx. So that's been a pretty good resource. We have the Elk Hunt homepage right here, which is something I want to draw your all's attention to. I do think it's got a lot of valuable information. So this is on the main page of our website. And we pretty much have 4 tabs here with different things for you to go through and read. Being that most of you probably already do have an elk permit watching this video, I really wouldn't worry too much about the available Kentucky elk permits one. But there is some really good stuff. This elk hunting info one here, I think is probably going to be the most important one to you all, at least in my opinion. It's got some general regulation stuff and overview information, because this wasn't just directed at, drawn hunters. This is for everybody who's curious. But it does have some pretty good stuff, I think mainly right here in the elk hunting reports. So pretty much what these reports are, we do them annually. It tells you about previous year's harvest, how people were killing these elk, where they're killing them, just different stuff about the elk program for that year, and with a big focus on the previous year's hunt. Then we have these elk hunter surveys. By the time this video airs, hopefully the newest one will be on here, but I'll show you. This one, all of you all that have been drawn for a permit, you're going to be required to complete a postseason elk hunter survey. And the reason we ask you to do that is to make this report right here. We pretty much take the experiences of all the hunters from last year, and we ask them different questions and try to compile into this report so that we can help you guys, in subsequent years. There's all kinds of interesting questions in here. You can figure out, like, how much is this hunt going to cost me? You can figure that out in here. You can see, like, what types of properties people were killing elk on to help you think as we progress through the summer, like where you might want to end up or what you might be trying to acquire. You can see how people prepared for their elk hunt, how people did it last year. So maybe that'll help you in your pursuits this fall. We have all these options right here that have already been laid out, so it might direct you on where you want to go to learn about elk hunting in Kentucky. What I think is a really important one to highlight right off the bat, because we do get so many questions about it, and we've already made a video with the Kentucky Elk Guide Association. At the very back of this report, we do have a couple of appendices that'll pretty much give you an idea how our do-it-yourself hunters fared last year. We have a lot of interest in these guys wanting to be do-it-yourself hunters. So I've tried to break stuff out from last year's hunters so you all can see how they did. So this first one's just a general overview of pure do-it-yourself hunters, and things of interest to you all. And here's one that I really think is important. It's a table that's broken out between do-it-yourself hunters and then people who went with a guide. So you can kind of look through here and basically see how successful the do-it-yourselfers were versus the guided hunters. So just a lot of good information here, I think, would behoove you guys to check out. Another one that you might find interesting is the elk program history. It's not super related directly to elk hunting, but this is pretty much how we got our elk and then what we've been doing with them. This is pretty much where we store a lot of our management plans, these plan of work documents, and a lot of our research stuff. So you can go through here if you want to learn specific things about, say, bull elk in Kentucky. We've got this compendium of elk Kentucky literature, where we've got all the Kentucky elk research projects put onto a document, so you can look them up and then learn real-time stuff about, or you can learn stuff about real studies that have been conducted in Kentucky, and just some of the different things that we have going on that I think might be interesting to you. And if you browse through, you'll surely find something that'll help you. And then the last one is this elk regulations page. What this is essentially just the elk section of our hunting guide up here for you all to review. Most of our hunters have never done this before. They don't know what they have to do to be legal when they're hunting elk in Kentucky. So this will go through and tell you things like what your weapon restrictions are, your season dates, what you physically have to carry with you in the field, things like that I think will obviously you're going to need to read and familiarize yourself with. So yeah, that's just a general overview of this elk hunter my profile. Again, this is specific to you guys. Not everybody can see it. We're going to focus more about this area draw and hunting parties and stuff as we move forward, I think, next week. But I would encourage you all to look at this over the next couple of days and try to digest some of this information. It's at least going to give you an idea of, some ideas on where to go, and ultimately, help you all as you move throughout the fall. a lot of the stuff initially when hunters are calling us, you can actually find the answers to those questions on my profile. So I would definitely encourage you guys to read this stuff. What are we missing?
Yeah, I was gonna tilt this back around here. I was gonna navigate just real quickly to just a couple of our hunting resources. We'll see if we can get this pulled up. If not, we'll get it from the website. So a couple of years ago, our hunter ed instructors put together, we're calling this Kentucky Elk University. And this is a great resource to start at. And it is essentially, you know, for those people, a lot of our drawn elk hunters in Kentucky are first-time elk hunters. The vast majority of them have never elk hunted in the past. And this is a great place. This talks about everything from pre-hunt preparations, what to expect in the field. You got this nice visual over here of where you need to be shooting the elk at, that kind of stuff. So there's just a number of the resources that we're trying to put up to, again, make our drawn elk hunters as successful as possible when the hunt comes. I'm taking a look at my notes here and make sure we worked through everything. And I think we have. Well, I'm going to stop that share so you can actually see us. So essentially, that is the system that's in my profile, the info that Joe's put together, that the elk program's put together for the elk hunters. This is specifically done for you folks out there that are drawing elk hunters. The reason that we put a whole lot more information. If you were drawing 5 years ago, you weren't seeing nearly this information, was just the simple fact that we've got 594 drawn elk hunters right now. And the first week after the draw, everybody calls. And a lot of the questions that they were asking were just very simple questions. And it's almost better to have them written out or have a graphic for them or something than it is to be on the phone with Joe and I trying to talk you through this thing where we're not really looking at the same computer screen. So this webinar hopefully shows you kind of what to be looking for on that page, but I can't stress enough how important it is to review all that info on there. Give that a good run through, and I can just our just the kind of calls we were getting last year told me that this was working and that the info on my profile was really helping our hunters. We didn't really seem to get very many of those questions are like, what do I do now? So hopefully this webinar episode plus all that information that's up can answer some of the first group of questions there after you're drawn. And it really sets the foundation for asking better questions. It's gonna take up less of your time and really help you down the road. So I think that's important. So a couple of final thoughts that I've got, and there's a couple of deadlines through the summer. So, the draw was May 14th. The results were up Tuesday the 17th at some point yesterday afternoon. And really the first big important date is July 1st at midnight. And that's that area draw. Like we've mentioned several times, we'll go into that in depth next week, explain why it exists, what the reasons are behind it, and kind of how to use it, essentially how you need to be thinking about things over the next couple of weeks. So you've honestly got plenty of time before you get to that area draw. I wouldn't worry about it. It doesn't give you any advantage to go in there tomorrow and pick your selections. You can change them multiple times over the next couple of weeks if you feel more comfortable doing that. If not, kind of get the foundation established. Look through these materials, talk to us, contact your guide if you're interested in getting a guide. And you don't really have to jump on that, but that's an important date. We have people that miss that date every year. If you miss that date and don't put any selections in, you're basically just going to be given a random unit. And that can be good or bad depending on where you want to elk hunt. So number one thing, go on my profile. If you're getting this video from YouTube and haven't checked my profile yet, and you heard your name at the Mountain Arts Center last Saturday, go on my profile and verify that you have gotten a tag and what specific tag it is. That's going to be important. Secondly, we'll have our video with the Kentucky Elk Guides president going up very soon, but it's important, and this happens every year. Those guides book up quickly. So if you're interested in a guide, watch that video. That'll answer some questions for you. It'll also tell you how to get in contact with those guides that are part of the Kentucky Elk Guides Association. Review your elk hunting units in regulated areas, probably my third thing to be thinking about, and at least get thinking about where you want to elk hunt. And then you got that July 1st deadline. And then finally, get your crew together. Elk are heavy. You'll need some help getting that elk out of the woods. So talk to your people, your hunting crew, and get them excited about it. So I will now, like we're going to do every video. Let me pull up our contact information. And so there you see it right there. So that is John. I'm John Hast. I'm at the top. Joe's at the bottom. That is our office number. We've got voicemail. The voicemails somehow magically go straight to our email. So no matter if we're in Minnesota at an elk conference or out in the field doing work, we know that you've called. Like I said, we typically have a pretty high call volume. It takes our info center folks that answer the phone a little time to get the system down about where calls need to go, depending on what questions are asked. And we will be back in contact with you. I can promise you that. Feel free to call us back if it's been a day or two, but we'll get through. A lot of times when we're talking to elk hunters, I enjoy those conversations and sometimes look down at my watch and I've talked to them for 30 or 45 minutes. So when you've got 15 people calling a day, you just end up running out of day, hours in the day to talk. So be patient a little bit here on the front end. So again, Joe, do you have anything else?
My last point for this first video in closing, he said, get your crew together. I would suggest you all to start thinking about getting in shape. They call them hills. I promise you walk it, it's a mountain. Our elk live in some pretty nasty and rough terrain. So it's definitely something you want to think about. It's not too early to prepare for that.
Absolutely. That's a great point. There's been, I know in the past, I've had a couple of hunts that we've taken out west. It's July and August and you are just behind the curve.
Yeah, man.
Whether it's you wanted a new piece of equipment that's all of a sudden sold out because everybody's going hunting in the fall and they're buying their stuff in the summer, or in my case, before a muzzleloader hunt in Colorado, I was switching sights out and changing stuff up, the weeks before the hunt. It's just it's stress that had I just started, when I knew I drew that tag back about this time of the year, it would have made it a lot better. So either way, so in closing, we did this webinar series last year. We're trying to make it a little bit more refined, neither Joe and I or any form of a professional webinar guy. So we're doing this as we can. And again, we're in a nice hotel room in Minnesota at the Eastern Elk Workshop. So that's been a big learning experience for Joe and I. He gave a big presentation yesterday. But either way, we're really looking forward to this. I thoroughly enjoyed doing this last year. I enjoyed talking with the hunters, and we could converse back and forth about what they'd heard on the webinar, and it gave us an opportunity to take it a little further. And it was enjoyable. I feel like we got some good feedback. So we're going to do it again. We're going to try to make it better. So be sure, by the time this video goes up, we should have the Kentucky Elk Guides video up. Be sure to check that one out. And then next week, it will be we'll call it like an advanced class on the area draw, which is probably one of the most, I don't want to say confusing, but one of the most thought intensive parts of this is really lining out those draw places. And we will take a deep dive into that next week. We'll be back in the office. We'll have good internet and should be able to run everybody through that. So again, take a look at what we went through today. We are here. Our number one goal is to have everybody go out there and have the greatest hunt they can have. And so that's one of the main reasons that we have done this. Like I said, we're all elk hunters, and honestly, I get excited. During the draw, it's a great, I mean, it's kind of the kickoff to elk season for sure. So congratulations for everybody that's a drawn hunter, and be thinking, and we'll try to guide you through the process this summer. So thanks again, and we'll see you on the episode next week.
Thanks.